Extrinsic self-worth is a trap, all right? And it's very fascinating how it works, because when you look at anybody that is, I mean, I would personally argue that this applies to anybody that externalizes their self-worth, right? Because if you were raised in a healthy way, where in the very beginning you were validated and approved of and loved by your caretakers, right? And then you had the healthy transition earlier on in childhood from being validated and approved of and loved by your caretakers to learning to do that for yourself, right? Not everyone had that. And instead, they learned to externalize their self worth, right? People, maybe not everyone, but I would argue a very large majority, people that externalize their self worth, they learned to, obviously, right? Because they didn't get what people that learned to internalize their self worth. So they attach it and they tie it. They tie it to all these things out there, right? A person, a job, a career, an Ivy League school, right? Um, but people that tie it out there and they're saying, please validate me, please approve of me, please love me. I finally have this, I finally have that, and that means I'm worthy. So please see that and understand that I'm worthy. Sounds a whole lot like they're trying to please mommy and daddy through different things that they do, right? And then maybe like they enter a relationship, right? And that relationship is entirely based around pleasing mommy and daddy. I've looked at so many relationships in my life and I've realized why I was in them, right? And it's based in what I'm saying here, you know. I wasn't doing things that I actually wanted to do. I was doing things because I wanted the approval and the validation. And it's a really fucking cool thing to realize that, right? I've learned that awareness is like around 90% of transformation, right? You're not going to change something that you're not aware of, right? If you're aware of something that you're doing is unhealthy for you, then there you go. You're aware of it and you can change it. If you're aware that you've been externalizing your self worth, but you recognize it for what it is and you see the pattern and you're like, oh, wow, I don't have to do that. So my worth isn't actually out there. I don't have to tie it to these things out there. It's in here, and I can do what I do because I enjoy it and not as a means to an end, not to get something, not to get approval and validation. Right? But one of the coolest things is to realize that why you're doing what you're doing is because you're still trying to please mommy and daddy. Now, if that doesn't make sense, let's explore that a little bit, because I think that I can understand why some people might not understand the idea of trying to please mommy and daddy, right? So from what I've learned in clinical psychology is from birth we are enmeshed biologically, right? We come out of the womb and we're enmeshed, right? Um, that in and of itself, because of how things are psychologically and biologically, that kind of just like, becomes us being enmeshed with mommy, right? Um, and then hopefully at some point early on in the journey, we learn healthy boundaries. It doesn't happen often. I'm not gonna say it doesn't happen often. Um, it doesn't happen all the time. Some people don't get healthy boundaries. Some people don't get individuation. Some people don't get differentiation. Those two are crucial to becoming an autonomous individual. Those two are crucial to becoming an individual, right? And individual is part of individuation, right? Being able to think, feel, and do for yourself that is separate from everyone else, right? And so if you didn't get those necessary and healthy elements, you usually just end up staying enmeshed with mommy and daddy, right? Their needs become your needs. Usually, what ends up happening is because of this fucked up extrinsic bass backwards self worth game. Um, their needs become so important to you that you do things that you don't want to do to please them. Oh, I just want your validation, your approval, and your love, mommy and daddy. So I'll marry this person even though I don't want to. I'll go to this Ivy League because I know that it's what you want me to do, and that's what I'll do. I'll take on this job that I fucking hate, but I'll do it anyway because I crave your validation, your approval, and your love. Obviously, it's not healthy. Um, but it's wild when you realize that if not everything you do, a majority of what you do is done to please mommy and daddy because you're stuck inside of this extrinsic system of self worth where you are taking care of mommy's and daddy's needs because they don't have healthy boundaries, because they have fucked up boundaries. Um, and you're not actually doing the best for yourself. You're not actually doing what you want to do. That's fucked up. It is. I mean, people can do that if they want to, but it's unhealthy. It leads to a life of resentment. You end up consistently wondering if what you're doing is the right thing rather than knowing who the fuck you are with healthy boundaries, individuation, and differentiation, and not needing to ask permission. This goes back into what I was talking about, I believe it was in yesterday's video, right? Not needing to ask permission. You don't need anybody's permission to do a single fucking thing. You don't. You just go about it that way because you didn't learn healthy boundaries, you didn't learn individuation and differentiation. Not only that, one of the biggest things with feeling the need to ask people for permission is that I just drew a fucking blank. Hold on a second. um, oh yeah, yeah. You probably weren't instilled with confidence in your own capacity to make decisions for yourself, right? This all goes back to boundaries. There's all like I've heard people talk about not letting their kids make decisions for themselves. You can do that if you want to, but you're not going to instill confidence in them. Hey, do you want the blue shirt or do you want the red shirt? I swear that's not a red pill, blue pill thing. It's just it just chose those colors. Um, and then like not being like, no, you're gonna wear the blue shirt because choosing the other one is weird. No, it's not. It's just this meaning that you've created to it, right? Allowing them the opportunity to become confident in their own decision making is a fucking powerful thing, right? A lot of people don't know what to do later on in life because they weren't encouraged to make decisions for themselves. And it's unhealthy because then not only do they end up spending a fuck ton of time asking other people what they should do, they end up not making decisions for themselves. So who the fuck's to say that the decisions that they're even making are what they want, right? And this goes back to being enmeshed with mommy and daddy and seeking the extrinsic validation and approval for self-worth. It's all tied back to the same thing. So learning to take your power back and to not be so enmeshed, right? And to not be waiting around for mommy and daddy to say, yeah, you can do that. But not just mommy and daddy, like other people, right? Like the wild thing about this, let me make this very clear. The wild thing about this, right, is that we become enmeshed with mommy and daddy, right? Their needs become our needs. They become more important than our own needs. And then because healthy boundaries, individuation, and differentiation are not introduced early on, you just enter relationships where you're still trying to please mommy and daddy through all these other relationships. All right, that's just the reality of it. Um, your relationships become mommy and daddy 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0. That's just the way that it is, right? And then you're in these relationships simply because of this mommy and daddy dynamic, right? The relationships are probably unhealthy and they probably have you doing things that you don't want to do. but that's what you're used to. That's what you learned to do through the fucked upness of, you know, your relationship to mommy and daddy, or said caretakers, whoever, right? That's just the reality of it. But yeah, oftentimes the hidden meaning behind why we seek extrinsic self worth and validation and approval, um, and why we enter relationships the way that we do with people where we're still trying to please mommy and daddy, is because we learned that fucked up dynamic from mommy and daddy, and we never healed that. You can externalize your self-worth all you want, but it's fucking backwards as hell. It really is. And it slows you down because nobody else can give you what you think they can give you that you need. That's the reality of it. And a majority of the other people are looking for the same fucking thing that you are. So if you think that your journey is the only one that's fucking rocky and weird, it's not. They're doing the same fucking thing. Right? Um, People that learned to externalize their sense of self worth seek pretty much obsessively external validation and approval. It is unhealthy because it leads to a roller coaster of a life where you have probably severe ups and downs, where you get something, oh my god, I'm worthy. You lose it, oh my god, I'm worthless. I'll pass on that.